Mr. Wyman.
Good evening and welcome to the Fort Smith City Board of Directors meeting on this July 21st of 2026. Keep in mind these meetings are being televised live for the benefit of our residents who cannot be with us in person. At this time, I'm going to ask Director Rigo if he would do the invocation for us and Director Neil Martin do the pledge. Okay. Thank you.
Please bow your heads and join me in a word of prayer. Lord, we come before you tonight grateful for the sunshine, grateful for the opportunity to be here together tonight. We ask for your wisdom to come over our meeting this evening and to continue to bless us and our community and everyone within the sound of our voice with the opportunities that you continue to shower on us. We're so very grateful for those opportunities, and we come before you humbly in prayer tonight. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This time, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Directors Rigo.
Here.
Good.
Here.
Kemp.
Here.
George Catsavis.
Present.
Christina Catsavis. Here. Settle.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, I will ask if there's any presentation by a board member on an item that's not already on the agenda. Okay. Seeing none, we will ask for approval of the July 7th, 2026. Okay. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to we have a special presentation this evening. We've got one of our very own that we do want to recognize. And we want to recognize our own police officer, Officer Cal Newman. And if you've been keeping up, you know his story of bravery and commitment to this city and to the work that he's doing with us. So I do have a proclamation. So if I can get the board members, just join me down front. Come on, George.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, son.
Officer Newman, if you could come down, join us. Thank you.
Do you want a microphone?
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Officer Newman, and thank you for being with us as well. City of Fort Smith proclamation recognizing Officer Cal Newman for his bravery and dedication. Whereas the Fort Smith Police Department stands as an emblem of safety, security, and community engagement. And whereas Officer Cal Newman has faithfully served the city of Fort Smith as a member of the Fort Smith PD since January 27th of the year 2025. And whereas throughout his tenure, Officer Newman has distinguished himself through his commitment to excellence, community engagement, and public safety, while demonstrating unwavering professionalism and dedication to serving the people of Fort Smith, Arkansas, with integrity, honor, and selfless devotion. And whereas on the morning of May 1st of 2026, Officer Newman responded to what appeared to be a routine incident. And during the course of driving while intoxicated investigation, he was critically wounded in the line of duty while attempting to protect the public and uphold the law. And whereas despite suffering life-threatening injuries, Officer Newman stands here this evening demonstrating extraordinary courage, resilience, and determination throughout his recovery and inspiring his fellow officers and the Fort Smith community with his unwavering strength and perseverance. And whereas the city of Fort Smith proudly recognizes Officer Cal Newman for his selfless service and the bravery and his steadfast devotion to the principles of justice, public safety, and the protection of our community, qualities that exemplify the highest ideals of law enforcement. Now, therefore, I, George B. McGill, the mayor of the city of Fort Smith, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim July the 21st, the year 2026, as Officer Cal Newman Day. And in Fort Smith, Arkansas, I encourage all citizens to join me in celebrating and acknowledging the outstanding bravery, dedication, and sacrifice of Officer Cal Newman. So let us come together as a community to express our gratitude and appreciation for his unwavering service. Thank you very much, Officer Newman. Let's please recognize Officer Newman one more time. Would you please? Thank you so much.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I say something?
Yes, you recognize it. Any other board member, if you have comments, you recognize
just-
to speak.
We are so grateful to Officer Newman for his service, for the fight and the strength that he showed. We're thankful to everybody who prayed for him and pulled for him. And we're so very grateful to all the doctors and nurses and friends and family and everyone who cared for him. Just a tremendously heroic story that'll inspire us forever. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Director Neil Martin, you recognize.
Yeah, a lot of prayers went out for that guy and his wife and his family for protecting us. And I know there's people here. There's some first responders that are here that want to meet with you. That have some things that they want to give you. But we are so grateful for what you've done and your fight. And we're grateful to see you standing right here. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, we will go into the citizens forum. And the purpose of the citizens forum, and I'll read this every time we get here to this point. Purpose of the citizens forum is to provide Fort Smith residents an opportunity to address their board of directors on any topic related to city business and operations. Speakers shall direct their comments to the entire board, and other attendees are expected to respect the speakers at that time. Rules of decorum with respect to this meeting, the citizens forum and citizens comments of any item on the business are posted on the monitors and are included on the sign-in sheet. Please keep in mind, this is a business meeting of the governing body of the city of Fort Smith, and all speakers and attendees are expected to follow the rules of decorum. And with that, Madam Clerk, who's our first speaker?
We do have several. The first being Ryan Beesco. and each will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, board and mayor. How are you guys doing? Really quickly, I just want to thank you, allow me to speak tonight. My name is Ryan Bisco, and I'm here to respectfully ask the board to place the issue of Sunday alcohol sales on a future study session. This is not a request to make a decision tonight. It is simply a request to have an open, data-driven discussion about an issue that many Fort Smith residents and some business owners believe deserves a little bit of consideration. Back in March, during the annual pub crawl event, myself, along with a group of individuals, some that are here tonight, they stood outside of Amigos and collected 1,000 signatures from members of our community who support exploring this change. Those signatures represent people from across Fort Smith who believe it would be a good time to explore this option in our city. This conversation isn't just about alcohol, it's about economic development, supporting local businesses, consumer choice, and keeping dollars in Fort Smith instead of watching them leave every Sunday. I respectfully ask the board to dedicate a study session to reviewing this economic impact, hearing from local businesses, understanding the legal process, and allowing the public to be a part of that conversation. Some reasons to consider it: I feel like it would keep local dollars in Fort Smith, increase sales tax revenue for the city, support local, give consumers and businesses a choice, and let the community have the conversation. I also know that everything comes with pushback. So some of the things that may be a concern is we don't want to encourage more drinking. This proposal doesn't create demand. It acknowledges the demand that's already existing. People want to purchase alcohol on Sundays, are already doing so. They're simply leaving Fort Smith to make those decisions. We did a quick little petition thing. These signatures are not the normal that you would need to push this to a vote. These are just people of public interest. There are 1,000 of these, and I brought them here to show you just that there's some interest. In closing, tonight I'm not asking the board to approve Sunday alcohol sales. I'm simply asking to approve a conversation. A study session would give the board the opportunity to hear from residents, business owners, law enforcement, faith leaders, and anyone that has a concern. Fort Smith deserves the opportunity to examine whether we're losing customers, losing revenue, and losing competitiveness every Sunday simply because people are choosing to spend their money elsewhere. I respectfully ask that you place this issue on a future study session agenda so our community can have an informed, transparent discussion about what's the best interest of Fort Smith. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Natalia Deer.
Hi. So tonight I would like to talk about bathrooms. So I go to the riverfront park and I like to go down there and hang out to look at the river or just walk around, and there are no bathrooms down there. And so I made a video complaining about this and I posted it on the Fort Smith group, and it kind of blew up. And then shortly after that, like a couple of days, the bathrooms at John Bell Park were opened. But also I would like to address that while it is down there in the same area, it is also very inconvenient because you have to actually pack up and drive all the way down to John Bell Park, which it's not that far, but it's kind of far and inconvenient because I actually went to just look at the river and then I had to go to the bathroom. So I went, and then by the time I was done using the bathroom, the rain had got there. And so I didn't get to enjoy the park that day. So I had to wait till the next day that I had available to go to the park. And also, other people that are down there enjoying the park by the riverfront, by the amphitheater, they're not able, if they're pregnant or if they're fishing or whatever they're doing down there, like they have to pack up and leave the area just to go to the bathroom. And it's actually really inconvenient because you only get a certain amount of time to hang out down there. And then when you have to use the bathroom, you have to leave. And some people don't want to go back because it's a hassle to just and if you have children, it is a hassle to pack your children back up and go all the way back to the park. And then not only that, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I don't care. Homeless people, they do hang out around there. And it's not just about the homeless people, but I do see it as inhumane because they are human beings too. They don't have anywhere to use a bathroom down there. And a lot of people will say that they can go to the day room or to Hope Campus. But if you look at how far the day room is or how far Hope Campus is from that area, let's just be real. Can you hold your bowel movements that long to walk all that way to there if you are homeless? And, you know, homeless is an issue. And I've heard at a few of these events that I've been going to, like a lot of people have been complaining about the tent city. But I would just like to say that a lot of these people that are addressing how scary and how much an issue it is for the tent city being there, they have never actually been homeless. So they don't know what it is like to actually live down there. And yes, a lot of those people have mental issues and stuff like that, or they're from the military and they're homeless. I would like to see, I don't have that many friends or whatever, but I would like to put together a group of people and, you know, go down there and mentor these people. And some people, they don't want it, but I understand because I have actually been in their shoes. And a lot of these people, they don't like society because of money, or just like a lot of people are bullies and especially just in our town of Fort Smith, Arkansas, we have a lot of bullies. And I'm sure that you can see on the internet, there are bullies in this area. There's straight up bullies, and it's not right. And it's all walks of life. But also, I just wanted to say that I looked up, so I went to the 4th of July thing and I seen porta potties there. I looked up porta potties. They are like $150 to $300, but if you buy one, it's $300 to $400. That's the cheapest one for the Crapper King. And sorry, but and then the next available one is $700 to $1,000, and that's to buy it and to have it there, and to have it emptied monthly is $300. That's $175 to $350. But I do know that there are bathrooms there on the riverfront that are closed. But if we did open them, we could hire someone, which would open a job. We could hire someone to come and clean them weekly or daily if needed be. But thank you.
Next, we have Wendy Peer.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. My name is Wendy Pierre, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. The issue I'm going to talk about is data centers. There are currently 12 data centers in the state of Arkansas, with the closest one in Clarksville. As these projects continue to spread across our state, I believe Fort Smith has an opportunity to be proactive rather than reactive. After attending a panel discussion on this issue, I found out some of the major issues with data centers. Several different concerns were brought up repeatedly, and I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 of them. The first is the electricity. These data centers draw a huge amount of electricity, and that would be a strain on our grid, and it would ultimately mean increased costs to residents and businesses, and we do not need that rise in cost. Some of these companies have proposed generating their own electricity, but that also comes with the second issue, and that is noise, because they use these generators that sound like jet turbines, and they also emit some air emissions, air emissions. But we already know what it's like to have to live with the military jet noise that we do today currently. We don't need to be adding any more industrial noise to our community. Second is water. Many data centers use a huge amount of water to cool their systems. As our population grows and weather patterns become less predictable, we should ask whether this is the best use of one of our most natural, reliable resources for this area. And you know, Fort Smith's already challenged with our water system. and we should be cautious about adding another major demand onto our system. The important thing to remember is that once these facilities are built, their impacts are difficult, if not impossible, to reverse. I want to be clear, though, I support technology, I support economic development, but not every project is right for every community. Fort Smith is working to build a great city that families, businesses, the military want to invest in and want to be here. We enjoy a quality of life that we should protect. This past June, our neighbors to the north, Fayetteville, they passed some strict regulations governing some of the data centers in their area. Tonight, I'm asking this council to begin developing our own policies and zoning regulations that would prevent large-scale data centers from locating near or within Fort Smith. We need to make it clear that these facilities are not compatible with our community unless they can fully protect our infrastructure, our natural resources, and our neighborhoods. I also ask each member of this board to commit to complete transparency in any discussions or negotiations developing the data center. The people of Fort Smith deserve to know what's being proposed before the decisions are made, and we should learn from recent controversies like the proposed prison in Franklin County. We have the opportunity to address this issue now before the issues and the construction begin. I respectfully ask you to start that conversation before it is too late. Thank you for your time, your service to our community, and your thoughtful consideration.
Next, we have Quentin Cunningham.
Good evening, all. I'm here today to follow up on last week's study session. When I emailed the board regarding potential legal complications the taxpayers would be funding, explained why our federally funded shelters can't discriminate, and pushed back against the mass importation narrative, one response I got attempted to flip the conversation into an attack on me, but in the interest of decorum, I will not be naming the person. They demanded my solutions to issues separate from the concerns I raised. This was the first acknowledgement I have ever received from them, even when I emailed about an information leak that affected 249 Fort Smith residents. I will answer that demand here, so the public and the voters can hear them. First, on the drain on resources comment. Instead of bickering about who deserves emergency services, why don't we try partnership? We should work directly with our police department and our shelters to establish a dedicated beat liaison as he requested last week. If we can't do it 24 hours, why not peak hours? This would provide on-site de-escalation, faster response for legitimate needs, help clear up the wild conspiracy theories that are still circulating, and free up our patrol officers. It's a practical, targeted solution that supports both our shelters and our first responders. With the proper resource allocation and shuffling, little to no extra money is going to be spent. Second, I would like to ask the board, Andre specifically, have you followed up with Dr. Reamer on his proposal?
Yes, sir, I did. I had a conversation with Dr. Reamer and a citizen. I did call back with Dr. Reamer and the citizen both. They have not had interaction meeting yet.
Okay. I spoke to him today. Honestly, I feel his proposal is very, very reasonable. It'll address rising veterinary costs in Fort Smith. When we spoke today, he gave me quite a few horror stories about citizens who couldn't pay to help their animals and had to either euthanize them or he had to try and help them as best he can. We should explore his idea further. Small proactive steps like that, along with our incredibly effective and helpful voucher programs, it benefits everybody in the long run. An ounce of prevention is always worth a pound of cure. Finally, we must address the root causes of our homeless crisis. Gentrification and predatory real estate practices are driving up housing costs and pushing more people out of their homes. I talk to citizens daily about this issue. There was a gentleman who works about a block away from my house. I asked him if he would sign my petition and the government change petition, and he told me he just recently moved out. He's now in Pecola. That's a large issue we're going to continue facing, so I recommend we conduct a study on targeted interventions, stronger code enforcement against slumlords, incentives for affordable housing development, partnerships to preserve naturally occurring affordable units, and options such as inclusionary zoning and community land trusts. We could also implement a similar plan to help our small businesses with community land trusts, keep them from struggling and being driven out of town like Vinnie's Pies. Now, for another part of that email, crimes should be enforced vigorously regardless of whether the perpetrator is housed or unhoused. It always deserves full accountability. At the same time, these crimes occur in our community regardless of the victim's perceived homelessness. The solution isn't pitting groups against each other through thinly veiled holier-than-thou rhetoric. It's consistent enforcement paired with prevention and treatment programs that actually help our citizens. One criticism they levied at me at that email was leadership requires more than criticism. They're right. But you know what else it needs? Engagement. And they have consistently failed on that part. I will always remain available to assist with research and implementation despite any disagreements we may or may not have. Issues aren't solved with partisan, classist, or uninformed rhetoric. Let's move to collaborative, evidence-based action that serves all of Fort Smith. Once again, I will supply the board with packets that detail my proposals and correct some misinformation from the study session. Thank you.
Next, we have Jason Skurbitz.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me in again. I watched Neil's video last Sunday night, which I normally do, as a lot of you do also, and I thought it was quite good. Firstly, I'm with you, Neil, on the cemeteries issue, as our spending in this city is out of control in many ways. However, I also sympathize with and understand the thought process and viewpoint of those commenters that believe this is more than just a monetary issue. Because as they've noted, many City of Fort Smith residents are definitely personally invested in this whole situation. What I don't get is why it's seemingly the only solution that most of the board seems to latch onto is to have the City of Fort Smith, Arkansas, take over things that they have no business doing. Things are almost always handled better by and through the private sector and private investments. Just a few examples: unkept, unmaintained cemeteries, a failing convention center, a failing water park with outrageous expenses and expenditures, city-owned and vacant properties that are nothing more than a drain on our resources and system. Need I go on? Now, on to tonight's meeting. I, for one, am vehemently opposed to any more tinkering with the public forum. And frankly, because transparency with and trust in our board of directors is at an all-time low, I personally believe that Kevin Settle and Jared Rigo, among others, I'm speaking to the board, stop interrupting me,
Point of order.
and others are pushing this agenda item because they know good and well that there are much fewer attendees at the study session meetings, and thus they won't have to be subjected to listening to we the people any more than absolutely necessary. Also, I'm fairly certain and convinced that they don't want to be bothered to have to listen to us before they're fixing to vote on a controversial topic, an item, which seems to be more and more common these days, by the way. And they know that they're going to catch flack and be ripped a new one by the aforementioned we the people for their continued and impending shenanigans. Now, as to the external audit business, I didn't see or the actual report in the agenda packet. Did I overlook it? No, I didn't think so either. How are y'all supposed to vote on or adopt something that you haven't even seen yet? And is the Parrot Island audit report that also hasn't been seen or released part of that report that's supposed to be adopted? Next, with this whole trail grant scenario, where we get nearly $2.5 million of grant money to connect some existing trail infrastructure. But grant money, but only if and when we, the citizens and city, pony up that same amount, another $2.5 million. Riddle me this: how the hell does it take nearly $5 million to construct less than 2 mile stretch of trail? Not to mention, how does that actually, potentially or otherwise, affect this whole Bass Reeves loop or lark or leap or whatever the hell you want to call it these days? And who benefits from this latest potential boondoggle, given that it most likely involves the whole Acme Brick property and future park or what have you, as this new trail spur runs right through it? These are just a few of the handful of the many questions and reservations that I've got concerning this agenda items tonight. Thanks again for your hard work on our behalf, Neil, along with that of Christina and George. It's nice to see that we still have some actual representation in our city government. Hopefully we'll have a damn sight more after the elections in November. Shake out and take out the trash. Thank you.
Next, we have Shane McKinney.
Hello again. So I want to talk about the idea of moving the forum to a study session. We were excited to move it to give us 5 minutes and to put it before voting. And a lot of us were excited about that because we had the opportunity to talk to you right before a vote happens, rather than having a week delay between us talking to you about an issue and then a vote happening. And I think most of you were on board with that. If I recall, I think most of you voted for this and wanted to hear the citizen's voice, until the citizen's voice wasn't what you wanted to hear anymore. And more importantly, it started to take up a lot of time. I'll admit, an hour and a half, 2 hours of 5-minute increments of people being very repetitive. But sometimes we need to ask, why are people being repetitive? Why are people coming up here and saying the same thing? And I think that reason is obvious. They don't feel like they're heard. When the people out here feel heard, one person coming up and saying it, maybe two, is probably enough for everybody to feel like our voice is heard. I don't think you have a time issue that needs to be fixed. I think you have a listening to the will of the people issue that needs to be fixed. And I think there's an expectation that this is going to shrink and everybody's going to quit paying attention. But I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems like it's consistent week after week that lots of people are here wanting to be heard. And I think that there's a lot of hope here. I think there's a lot of people that feel like they're going to be heard for the first time in a long time. I even think you can't spell shenanigans without Shane in there. So he was talking about the shenanigans that are coming out. I think despite all of that, I think his statement was hopeful. He's looking forward to the coming elections. And because he looks forward to feeling heard. And I think if I were sitting on the board as you are, I would want the citizens to feel like they're heard already. I think that's the idea of representation. I think that's the thing that feels missing for so many of the people that are here. And I think our forum before you vote, listening, even if it takes 2 hours, I think that's a great way for you, the board, to show that even if it's painful, even if it means we're staying up late, that you are willing to listen to what the people have to say, even if it's repetitive, even if it's maybe doesn't make full sense, you're willing to listen to us. And I think that was a great gesture. I think taking that away during a time when so many people are worried about being heard, whether it be from petitions or whether it be from statements before votes or from comments online or whatever it may be, taking that opportunity to talk to you away, I think would be just a tragic misrepresentation of the people. Second thing I want to talk about, and I think this is indicative of this problem further. But Christina and George and myself and Joey were in George's last week, and Joey got a little animated, as Joey does sometimes. But I want to talk about the difference of this transaction. It's not to throw anything at Joey. He gets plenty thrown at him already. But a while ago, somebody asked me about that and said, Shane, if you were there, why didn't you try to rescue Christina from Joey?
I asked Shane, I came and got you.
You did come and get me.
I said, come get Joey.
And I came up and grabbed him by the arm and said, come on, you need to come. And there was a lot more to that story. But this is the thing, is he said that to me. He said, I'm really disappointed in you, Shane, because I think you listened and you didn't act during that time from what I saw online. And the reason why he was disappointed was because he didn't think I was listening for a change. And he said, normally we see you listening. And that caused me great disappointment. I think most people here would be surprised to feel like some of you are listening to them. Not surprised to think that you're not. And it doesn't mean that we're always going to agree, no, but at least hearing and conversing and feeling heard out here to the people, I think will take care of a lot of the time constraints and a lot of the time problems, if that makes sense. So when the citizens out here are surprised to not feel heard from you, that's a sign that you're probably listening about as much as you need to be. You're finally close to where you need to be. And I hope you can set that as a metric and say, you know what? I want the citizens to expect me to listen. I want the citizens to feel heard with me. And some of you are really good at this. Thank you for those.
Next, we have Janie Pugh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janie Pugh, Press Secretary for the Shane McKinney Revamp Fort Smith campaign. We live here in a moment where the national political climate can feel heavy and incredibly divisive. Too often we look at the news and assume that these challenges only exist in far-off places. But recently, right here on the steps of our own local government, the reality of political threats and hostility hit close to home. It served as a stark and sobering reminder that the safety, stability, and civic ideals that we hold dear are things that we can never take for granted. Today, we are standing together to confront an unacceptable reality, the rising tide of political intimidation and threats of violence. But more importantly, we are here to celebrate the resilience of our community, the strength of a dedicated campaign, and the swift justice delivered by the professionals who protect us. Political threats and intimidation are at their core a direct assault on the democratic process itself. When disagreements escalate into hostility, fear, and harassment outside of public meetings, it doesn't just target individuals. It threatens the right of every citizen to engage in civic life and to speak their mind freely. When our team faced a moment of direct confrontation and threat, it was meant to silence us. But a community and a campaign is not defined by the intimidation it faces. It is defined by how it responds. I want to recognize Shane McKinney for his steadfast leadership during this time. Instead of backing down, instead of allowing fear to dictate the terms of this election, the campaign stood firm. Shane chose transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. By doing so, the campaign sent a clear message to the people of Fort Smith. We will not be intimidated. We will not stop showing up, and we will continue to advocate for the future of this city. Ensuring that democracy can proceed without fear requires dedicated individuals who run toward danger to protect others. That is why I want to extend my deepest, most sincere gratitude to the Fort Smith Police Department and Chief Baker. When campaign staff faced an immediate threat to their safety, the response from our local officers and investigators was professional, decisive, and absolute. They did not hesitate. The Fort Smith Police Department acted swiftly to investigate the incident and ensure accountability. Your dedication is the shield that holds regular citizens and allows them to participate in local government safely. But the work of law enforcement is only the first vital step. Lasting safety requires an unyielding commitment to justice inside the courtroom. I want to express our profound thanks to our prosecuting attorney and their entire team. Answering the call of justice in cases of political intimidation requires immense resolve. The prosecutor's office stepped up seamlessly to reinforce a vital truth. Our legal system works. It protects its citizens, and there is absolutely no safe harbor for lawlessness or political violence in Fort Smith. As I close, let us remember that keeping the peace is a shared responsibility. We are incredibly fortunate to have a resilient campaign team, a stellar police department, and a dedicated prosecutor's office standing together. Let us leave here today resolved to choose civil dialogue over hostility. Let us reject the bitterness that fuels division, and let us continue to support the local heroes who defend our right to build a better, safer Fort Smith. Thank you all so much.
Next, we have Jamichael Robinson.
How you doing, Mayor and City Board members? Good to be with you tonight, and I wanted to say thank you to Officer Newman for surviving this attack. I think that was very, very cool what you guys did here tonight. Real shortly, Fort Smith Police Department also saved my life too. Back in August of 2021, when a gentleman decided to drive me around and I sat in the backseat of my car with a gun. And then later wanted to find out what it felt like to commit a homicide, so he cut me up real good. And they found him that night. And but that's what he told the detective. He said he wanted to know what it felt like to commit a homicide. So I just want to thank the Fort Smith Police Department and Danny Bacon, you guys, for doing what you did. I really appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? I just want to take a little bit different perspective tonight on some things. I always sent you guys some emails. You might want to check your emails real quick. I sent some emails to you, some documents. I also have some documents I want to submit to the city clerk and the attorney's office, the city attorney. What I wanted to present is a city ordinance around parliamentary procedures and filing formal requests. And I know there's not a lot of knowledge about this, not a lot of education about that, right? And the city doesn't particularly, really put any real education out there based on this little book. This little book is a pretty powerful book. And I see people that have not quite understand. I've been observing it for a few weeks and just decided I wanted to see what is this procedural gap that's going on. And so what I did was excuse me, I found some information. I'd like to submit some of these documents. I don't know if you guys are able to check the emails as well. But I come from this position of talking about this because I've sat on several boards, and I sat on the board of Harvard House Gateway for 2 years as a board member. And so I understand this process of what's going on. And I've kind of wanted to come from this particular piece of it. What I have here is a formal request form. That's in accordance with you guys' guidelines and the parliamentary procedures that you guys do it. And a lot of people come up here and they're talking about the issues and stuff. And this is a way to really formalize it and track it. It's in your emails. I can send that to you. And so and like I said, it's in accordance with you guys' guidelines and the parliamentary procedures. I called NAP, which is the National Association of Parliamentarians, and wanted to see how well this document was crafted and how I put it together. And I spoke to these guys and they said that there's nothing on here that they can add or take away. So I think I'm in the right area of what's going on here, because I wanted you to just kind of put on your educational lens for a little bit and look how generational this document can be, so that we, the citizens, can get formalized answers back to our questions. And I know that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to refine it just a little bit, you know what I'm saying, to give us some procedures so we can all track the process of how these things go. And I'm not sure if you guys are able to see that in your emails. Is that correct? Good. I just wanted to get some clarification on that. But here's the current landscape of what it is right now. Joe Huskin, she said something about education a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to tap into that a little bit. But the current landscape is that municipalities widely enforce parliamentary rules from the dais, and yet they provide no legislative mechanism to teach those rules to the public. A perfect example of this disconnect can be found right here in Arkansas. The official rules of procedures for the City Council of Conway explicitly mandate that businesses shall be conducted by Robert Rules of Order. However, in the exact same section, the city officially concedes that it's also understood that the formal parliamentary procedures is not well known by the public. Cities are legally requiring citizens to engage with the system that citizens themselves admit the citizens do not understand, while entitles that the Arkansas Cooperative Extension Services publish-based pocket guides for parliamentary procedures. These are merely internal resources, not integrated local government.
Mr. Robinson, 5 minutes are up. And thank you for your presentation.
I got now 10 seconds here, sir. I would like to submit this to the city's office. It's already up. Oh,
It's counting up.
it's counting. My bad. Can I admit these to the board, please? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Next we have Joe Elskin.
I'm going to be quick. I am very happy and supportive that you're considering moving the Citizens Forum. I think it would improve the atmosphere for the business of the city of Fort Smith. I think it's hard for you all to do your job if you have been through an hour of sometimes very rancorous comments. And if people need to be heard, they are best heard if they email. And it's very easy to email the city board. And then you could put your entire reasoning and it can be considered in the right atmosphere. So that's my recommendation. That's my support. The next point is tourism is very, very important to our economy. Trails are being funded in Northwest Arkansas, and I feel like the May Branch Railroad Trail, of course, would be covered by parks funding. So it's already set aside for parks. It can't go anywhere else. It might as well go to improve that trail, create that trail. And then finally, you know, the Spradling Avenue extension runs through heavily wooded area. And the treetop development, you know, I asked them to please leave some trees and they didn't. It was all clear cut. And so I'm just hoping that you all would work with the engineers and the construction company and ask them to leave some shade trees along that walkway. All right, thank you very much for your work.
Next we have Joey McCutcheon.
Joey McCutcheon, Fort Smith. I think it's great tonight to hear about data centers, the homeless. We're going to hear about flock cameras, which is a major constitutional issue, in my opinion. We have some people talking about history tonight. We have the Housing Authority folks here to comment tonight, I believe. We've had comments about the citizen comment. We've heard about Officer Newman. So, hey, this is great. This is what citizen engagement's all about. I want to give a quick update on where we are with the petitions. Today, we were planning to submit them to Mayor McGill, who graciously said he could meet with us at 10 o'clock this morning. But last night, we received a comment from a citizen who had concerns about some of the signatures she had collected and whether the process was being followed correctly. I love that, and no criticism toward that citizen and all. That's the way it should be. We held off because we want the process to be filled with integrity, and that's what we've done from day one, and that's what we're doing today. We're investigating this, we're looking at this, and we want to make sure that it's done the right way. So we're looking into it now, and if we need to report it to the Ethics Commission or anything else, we'll do that. Understand that. The truth is these petition drives must be handled carefully. There are all kinds of reasons why signatures are routinely thrown out. Felonies, not registered, they live out of the city, all kinds of reasons. And that's exactly why we've tried and continue to collect more signatures, and we're not stopping now. The county has a program that they can look at these things in literally almost no time at all, and the city should be no different. But it's why we're collecting more signatures instead of rushing to turn them in. We would have turned them in today, but we had an issue. Now, this has been a completely grassroots effort, 100% by volunteers. Many of them are here tonight, regular citizens volunteering their time. Last weekend, several citizens stood out in 100-degree weather. And we're going to continue to get signatures because you know what? It's more than just getting signatures. It's about citizen engagement, and that's what we're seeing tonight. But I'm going to be honest with everyone here, and I'm going to be candid with everyone here. And I'm going to be candid with the folks who are listening tonight. I talked to Sharon Brooks, who's our county clerk today. We have 46,000 registered voters in Fort Smith, Arkansas. We've collected now 3,851 signatures. 3,851 signatures. That's disappointing to me, but it's been a great volunteer effort, don't get me wrong. But also 3,600 people passed a sales tax of $360 million of funds for over 30 years. 3,600 Fort Smith voters passed that. We can do better than that as citizens. And if these signatures get thrown out, then we need the people of Fort Smith to step up and replace them. And that's what I'm asking people to do tonight, because we're continuing to push for signatures just like we did in 100-degree weather. So I'm asking Fort Smith residents to help. You aren't voting to change the government. You're just giving us the opportunity to vote in November. The board's repeatedly tried to take action, and the board in whole has decided not to do that. The city clerk found out about this problem and city lawyer found out about this problem last week before I had an hour conversation with each of you about this signature problem. We probably should have known about that. But so at some point it's pretty clear that the fate of this is with us. And I am going to commit tonight, the buck stops with me, but we're going to get this job done. I'm challenging every registered voter to step up and sign it, because we're going to get the signatures one way or another in the right way and timely. If I've got to fill my great niece's wagon up and walk down Rogers Avenue, I'll do it, because it's that important. And our fire department will probably have to scrape me off the parking lot from a heat stroke, but I'll do it anyway. But it's important, and we've got to get this done. The people deserve that. So take 5 minutes, come by my office, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your neighbors, and let's get more and more signatures, and let's keep the citizen engagement up. More citizen engagement, not less. This is awesome to hear all the different perspectives, and I appreciate the board. I appreciate you hearing us.
Next, we have Mitch Minnick.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, and city administration. I wanted to directly address a few statements that were shared with the board at the July 7th regular board meeting regarding our organization, the Fort Smith Housing Authority, and the Community Development Block Grant Program by Ms. Crystal Cadelli. For reference, Ms. Cadelli's statements can be found at approximately the 2-hour and 19-minute mark of the July 7th recording. She stated that between 2022 to 2025, the city utilized CDBG funds of $481,000 for the Bailey Hill project for demolition and also sewer and water improvements. She went on to say that she didn't like that the city giving such a large portion of these funds to one organization, and that she would rather see it go to our community rather than just one organization. She also stated that the funds can be used in many different ways, which is true. She ended her remarks by reiterating that she would rather see CDBG funding going to our community rather than just to one organization. And I assume she meant the Housing Authority in her context. It's important that context and relevant information was missing from her statement. And I'd like to take the opportunity now to provide that. The Community Development Block Grant Program is a federal grant program. These are not funds coming from the city's general budget. The City of Fort Smith acts as an intermediary known as a participating jurisdiction, or PJ, to award these federal funds to qualifying organizations through a competitive process to improve low-income areas through improvements and/or services at the local level. In 2022, the city awarded over $1.4 million of funds to 14 separate applications from 11 unique organizations. The Housing Authority received approximately $343,000 that year to assist with the demolition of the Bailey Hill Reservoir. It was approximately 24% of the CDBG funding for that year. In 23 and 24, the Housing Authority did not apply for CDBG funding. However, the city collectively awarded over $1.6 million to 29 separate applications and 25 unique organizations in those 2 years. In 2025, the city awarded $780,000 of CDBG dollars to 10 separate applications and 10 unique organizations. The Housing Authority was one of those organizations that year, receiving about $139,000 for utility work for the Bailey Hill project. In total, the 22 through 25 period Ms. Cadelli referenced saw over $3.8 million of CDBG funding awarded for our community to anywhere from 10 to 15 unique organizations each year. The Bailey Hill applications totaled approximately 13% of the total CDBG funding for those years. Expanding the review to include the last year, which was 2020, that the Housing Authority received CDBG funding for something other than Bailey Hill, which was financial assistance to purchase a people mover van to help us transport Nelson Hall residents. That review from 2020 to 2025 shows a total of $5.5 million of federal CDBG grant dollars being awarded to as many as 18 unique organizations over that time period. That 6-year period, the Housing Authority received approximately 9% of the CDBG dollars. I'm happy to report that any claim that all of the federal CDBG grant dollars are going to one organization is unfounded. The opposite is in fact true. These federal grant dollars are being utilized by multiple agencies throughout our community to help our low-income community members, from young infants to the elderly, from the unhoused to the housed. In addition to the Housing Authority being a recipient 3 times in the last 6 years, other agencies like the Children's Emergency Shelter, the Crisis Intervention Center, Community Rescue Mission, Riverview Hope Campus, Next Step Homeless Services, the Art for the River Valley, Harbor House, the Guidance Center, Sebastian Retired Citizens Association, Antioch, the Fort Smith Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc., Heart to Heart Pregnancy Center, Crawford Sebastian Community Development Council, and the Hamilton Center for Child Advocacy have all received funding for a variety of needs. I'd like to conclude by thanking all of the organizations that are carrying out these good works, partially funded by the federal CDBG grant dollars. I'd like to thank the city's Community Development Department for administering the program, the Community Development Advisory Committee, and the Board of Directors for reviewing, recommending, and approving projects for funding. Finally, I'd like to say that the Housing Authority, we are proud of the services that we offer, and we welcome the opportunity to share our mission with board members and candidates for office. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Darren Bircher.
Good evening, Darren Bircher with the Fort Smith Housing Authority. Just wanted to give you a quick update. There was some information requested at the June 23rd study session, and so I wanted to give a little more information on that to you guys. As we previously shared, Forsgren won the bid after a competitive sealed bidding process that the Housing Authority entered into a contract with them for the total project cost of $1,754,231.50. That work has began at that project on June 29th, and the work's scheduled to be completed in 2026 to the early 2027. A breakdown of the streets and drainage work was requested at that June 23rd study session. Our engineer, Hawkins Weirs, prepared that breakdown, which we shared with the city staff today. So that can be included with the information and transmitted to the board. The total scheduled cost of that project was $1,273,310.50. The existing street improvements, the improvements related to the South S and 16th Street, was $263,139. The new street improvements related to the new infrastructure work was $799,077.50. And then other project costs required work but not directly tied to the existing or new improvements was $211,094. Director Settle inquired about the possibility of attaching a clawback provision to those funds attributed to the new improvements, and we're open to such language being added to that funding agreement, and that we'll have that before the board in August as deed restrictions for that project. Approximately $23,000 would be associated with each lot for that subdivision. Again, we've emailed that information to the city staff today, and we'll have that information shared to you guys for the August meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Cadelli.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Hadn't really planned on saying anything on this, but since my wife was brought up, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to speak for her. She doesn't need me to do that. But from my perspective, my only objection to the Housing Authority asking for the $1 million was where it was coming from the streets, bridges, and drainage fund. That was my personal objection. What they get from what the CBDG gives them, I don't have any question about that. That seems like that's how that normally goes. So that was my concern. Today was supposed to be the day petition signatures would be presented to the city to begin the process of certification. Right out of the gate, we have procedural roadblocks being thrown up. This merely highlights and validates the numerous pleas from citizens for the board to pass all the numerous obstacles and delays those who oppose this change of government will deploy. This effort to deny the citizens an opportunity to decide the form of government we wish to be governed by will continue beyond the efforts of the 4 directors who have voted against allowing the people to make this decision for ourselves. I still hope the signatures collected will are enough to override the veto from the previous mentioned directors. I also appreciate the previous citizen who brought up the issue around data centers. This is a big issue, and cities do need to get ahead of that. It seems like a lot of cities throughout the country wait until these things pop up and processes have already begun, and deals have already been made with cities. So I appreciate her bringing that up. I do hope the board would have a study session to discuss what ordinances might be necessary to protect us from something like that popping up in our neighborhood here. And then along the same lines, throughout the country, there is a growing controversy around the flock surveillance systems. That's another issue that I wish the city would, I respectfully requested the board to schedule a study session on, so that we can be educated on those systems, how they're utilized in our city, what happens to that data, and the extent of those systems in our town. I think Greenwood just went through a similar process with their flock representatives. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, we have Crystal Cadelli.
Good evening, board. I actually had not planned on speaking about the Housing Authority tonight, but I feel the need to provide a little information. One, I think that it's interesting that decorum, we are not allowed to mention specific board members' names, but I believe Mr. Minnick just mentioned mine multiple times. So in October of 2012, the city did a quit claim deed for Bailey Hill to the Housing Authority. And with that, they specifically stated that the city will bear no cost of removing the structure and preparing the site for development. So the CDBG fund that we just allocated to them did just that. We funded them the cost of cleaning up the property. And for anybody that doesn't understand how CDBG works, is that yes, it does come from the federal government, which goes to the state, which the state allocates the city. And the city gets to determine where those funds go. So they could be utilized for low-income areas. We could use them for water lines in low-income areas. We could use them for drainage issues in low-income areas. We could be helping the citizens that live in poverty areas with things that will impact their quality of life. But instead, we gave it to the Housing Authority, which already gets in the upper thousands of voucher dollars from the government. So and then you look at the salaries of the Housing Authority, and the top 5 leaders of the Housing Authority together roughly make up about $700,000 in salary. To me, that's not serving the community. So that's not really what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I thought that I needed to clear some things up. What I really wanted to discuss is that I found out last week that within the last 90 days, we have had 2,726 residents' water shut off for non-payment. That's nearly 2,800 households in 3 months. Those are children, elderly, and families that are suffering. Those numbers should be a wake-up call. Families are struggling, yet we continue discussing non-essential development, such as parks, trails, and water slides. actually allocating money to private developments like $2 million to an RV park. These are projects that might be desirable, but are not more important than reliable water, sewer, drainage, streets, public safety, and affordability. We cannot prioritize the appearance of progress while residents face rising utility bills, broken meters, water shutoffs, drainage problems, our aging transmission lines, our sewer infrastructure, and our police that aren't even able to properly help our city. We do not have enough police officers per area. We don't have a pumper truck at Station 11. We increased our firefighters, our police, and our city employees' insurance by 30%, but didn't increase their salary. Fort Smith is trying to develop, though we are already an entertainment destination, but we are not a Branson. A trailer or a park is not going to bring in millions of people and pay for itself. We cannot simply build it and they will come. Entertainment alone will not create a strong city. A strong foundation attracts businesses. Our infrastructure brings businesses. Businesses create jobs. Jobs attract people. People generate tax revenue. And a stronger tax base attracts restaurants, shopping, entertainment, private investment for all ages. That's sustainable growth that's going to work. And I'm so sorry, I had more to say, but I had to address the housing authority. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Next, we have Richard Morris.
Hello again, Richard Morris, Ward 2. You know, I think about the chaotic meetings we experience and people outside of Fort Smith seeing that. But tonight I'd like to elicit sort of a reconciliation of a misunderstanding to demonstrate to ourselves and outside communities that we're not all crazy. We can talk to each other. So I'd like to address a misunderstanding between, well, let's put it this way, about the definition of a word. And that word is breakdown. Now, back in April 14th at a citizens forum, I shared some AI research I did about the conduct of board meetings. And in that, I referenced Kevin Settle's admonitions as fellow board members about you shouldn't throw pot shots at each other. And I timed that, I gave a reference time of that meeting, referencing that was in response to Christina's breakdown. Now, I was referring to a breakdown in decorum. Christina had her own definition, and things kind of went sideways after that over the past couple of months after that meeting. So I'd like to take this opportunity to invite Christina to clarify what she thought was meant by that word breakdown. I think that would clear up a lot of things and de-escalate whatever might come. So Christina, please. Okay. Are you finished with your comments?
No.
Again, it's not a question and answer, but you may continue. Go ahead.
Oh, hold on. A director a few moments ago responded to a question from someone here at the podium, right?
But they chose to. She doesn't choose to speak.
Are you not going to respond to that?
She doesn't choose to speak.
Okay, well, that's characteristic. Okay, so let me clarify what's going on here and why I wanted to present this opportunity for everybody to be civil. If Christina misunderstood the connotations
All you have to do is look at the context of her statements. And it was a lack of decorum. It was a breakdown in decorum, breakdown in communication. That's all it was. I'm not going to venture to read her mind. I'm going to give her an opportunity here. But her action was an overreaction. And, about a month and a half went by after that.
Point of order. Richard, if you would, please address the board.
I'm scanning.
Yeah, I know you're
You want my
scanning.
glasses? I'm
No.
scanning. I'm talking to everybody.
I'm just asking, but you're talking to a specific board member. If you would just talk to the board. Okay, thank you.
Could you start the clock over again? You just ate up time and confused the whole thing. Give me some time back.
You get 30 seconds back. Give him 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay, I'll jump
Continue.
right to it.
Okay.
Christina back-channeled a threat to me that she would get her lawyer on me, I'm paraphrasing, if I continued to make any more additional false assertions. I made no false assertion. Now that was to chill. That was to chill my free speech, okay? This is all documented, it's public record. I've done legal consultation. But so has Christina done legal consultation. We're talking about a civil matter that she's implied. And she used city resources, city attorney, to question about defamation. And she crossed the line right there. Okay? That's a legal exaction. She's using government resources for a private matter. So I wanted to clear this up nicely. Everybody makes mistakes. She's passionate. Okay? Passionate has good and bad connotations. So the cat's out of the bag. So you guys are going to have to, pay attention to each other and police yourselves before things really get out of hand. And I resent you, Mayor, trying to shut me down because you give everybody else a free pass too often, too often.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kristen Kitchens.
Good evening, Board and Mayor. It's hard to follow normally after Mr. Morris here. He's a great public speaker, and, I get nervous up here, things like that. But what I'd like to talk about is I was aware that we have just received $1 million for brownfield money for Whirlpool. And I would like to make sure that that money is, we got it in June 2026 from what I understand from the EPA. But what I'd like to make sure is that we are able to manage those funds and make sure they're spent for that, if that's what it's for. I was kind of confused because I saw that I didn't think the city owned that, so I was a little tad bit confused on that when I saw in the EPA stuff. Now, also, I started looking at the NPDES permits within our city, and I noticed that we do not have one for Parrot Island. There was one for the Ben Garen Aquatic Park, but there has not been one filed for Parrot Island. And if we use a lot of chemicals and we buy a lot and we're going to be doing an audit, I thought maybe we should audit also the chemicals. I didn't know if maybe that's why we were putting more slides in so we could have more chemicals if we're sharing them with our water department. I wasn't quite sure, but I thought this is something we might need to look into. And also, Acme Brick does not have any stormwater permits or anything, and we have some company leasing the other side of it out of the, I guess it'd be the side that the store, Acme Brick stores on, and we have a contractor out there that's got a whole bunch of stuff stored out there, like garbage piles, and if there's not any stormwater permits, and we also have gas wells out there, I was concerned about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Dan Williams.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I appreciate what I've heard so far. I appreciate the mentioning of the data centers by Wendy. I do believe that if the board would take that serious and start looking at it, there are things that we could begin to prepare for in dealing with that and keeping our citizens safe and looking at the challenges that come with that. I also appreciate Jason bringing up Mr. Neil Martin's discussion on the Give Me Five. If he wasn't famous enough, he was at the over drinks last night and his name was mentioned 35 times, I think is what I counted. So
74.
74 times.
It came out to be.
And everybody was drinking every time his name was mentioned is what
Cabs got wealthy last night.
It was back to the college days for
That's
Neil.
right.
So, but what I would like to mention about Jason mentioned the cemeteries. It'd be nice if we could really get someone else to manage those. I believe we have too much. And if not, I want to propose the city to look at something, this board, to potentially look at, let's sell all of our excess properties and then we can take care of the cemeteries with a responsible ability to know that we can tend to it in the right manner, the way they deserve. I would appreciate that. Last week, we heard about the trails. I believe it was about the trails we mentioned and the loop. And I heard Casey brought this up about the mentioning of the change of the names. We couldn't change the name because it might mess up the grant. And I don't know how true that is, but it threw a red flag up for me because back in October 22nd, 2024, when I was at the board meeting, there was a noise mitigation grant that we were in conjunction with the school system and we were going to get, which was going to be roughly $5 million. That grant has been approved. And we got a $3.9 million grant from the federal government. We didn't have to pay for it, thank goodness. But the challenging thing is Cornell School and Orr schools are shutting down, and they're right-sizing the school system. And part of that grant is going to Cornell schools. And I'd like for the city board to look into several of the emails that Jeff Dingman had with our federal government and how to keep that grant even though that school was going to shut down. Because it seemed like there was some negotiation there when I FOIA'd it. And I went back and looked at all that I really believe has something to do almost like this name change thing. If we change the name, we can't get the grant. Or if we shut down a school and we get grant money, how can we keep it? And can we put school kids in there for a period of time to keep the money? I don't know. It just seemed odd. I'm not saying anything other than I need someone to look into it. Can y'all do that for me? And so also on the 5 minutes for the study session, it'd be nice to keep this that we have and add 5 minutes to the study session. Because if y'all want to build trust with the community, y'all are going to have to go the extra mile. And, you know, it's going to require work, and we're here to help. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of citizens here that have great ideas. I talk to people every day. They have some profound ideas that can help you. You just won't spend time. You'll listen to the people you want to listen to. And so I believe it'd be great to just go ahead and double down and ask for 5 more, or let's do 10 minutes. You know, I plan on staying the rest of the meeting and being here with you guys. I've learned to love you. I really have. In spite of some of y'all's thoughts, I really do. I care for this city, and I believe there's some great things that we need to look into. We got good problems. Did you know that? We have good problems today. Good trouble. Who said it over there? Right there. Good troubles. And you know what? It just takes time and energy to look into it, ask questions, and really it's going to take all of us together to fix it. And I'm amazed at how many people are coming out. And I believe more and more people will come out because people do love this city. And, you know, I believe, like Ray Baker used to say, life will be, even though it used to be, will be worth living in Fort Smith again. Thank you.
Next, we have Teresa Jones.
Good evening, Board. At the risk of being pushed to a study session to forum, I decided to speak tonight. Section 3 of the
City of Fort Smith Board best practices. I'm sure you all are infinitely familiar with the Code of Ethics. And I don't know how, if there is an issue of ethics on the board, I don't know how it is addressed. If you monitor each other or how that works. But in case you missed it, on July the 7th, there was a vote for rezoning of property at 705 Xavier Street in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I posted just the information on Facebook the following day after that meeting. And I'm concerned with the fact that one of our directors chose not to abstain from voting on a zoning matter near properties directly owned by immediate family. And I don't know how this is addressed by the board. If it does it even matter? Is it an issue? It's very concerning to me. And after being on social media and the comments and the reactions made by the post, it is deeply concerning to people in Fort Smith. What it tells me that if you can't take care of the little things, then you can't take care of the big things. And it was, being that July 7th was the night of the board to vote again to respect the request of the citizens to get the change of government put on the November election. This member chose to abstain from that voting instead of representing his constituency, but chose to vote when it directly affected potentially his livelihood, his family's livelihood, and things of that nature. Any questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
I figured. Thank you.
Next, we have Levon Morton.
Levon Morton, I live in Ward 4 in Fort Smith. I want to speak briefly about the cemetery issue. First of all, I hope there's a way that the city can find to contribute to the process of upkeep of those cemeteries. I would say that the group that has basically maintained that organization, gotten donations from the public, and generated revenue has done an amazing job of reducing the shortfall that is there. So the need for city funding is much less than it would be otherwise. What I would add to that, I think there are many problems with trying to transfer real estate that has a lien against it from one party to another. I think there are so many issues there that it could never actually be done unless the bank released the lien ahead of time. And even then, I don't think it's advisable for the city. The problem there is you're locking yourself into a long-term commitment. And while I believe that maintenance of the cemeteries is very important, you can't take that on forever. I think you have to create a situation where you have a way to avoid it if you don't have the money. If we have another 2009 problem, or if we have another flood or something like that, then you have to have a way to step away for a year. The way you could do that is with a lease.
and you do a one-year lease, renewable at the option of the city. Now, that brings in the question of, in order to do a lease and pay for it, the city has to receive something of value in return. And I would urge the city to sit down with the group that runs Fort Smith Cemeteries and try to work out some value the city can receive. And there are a variety of things that I can think of. And I think there are people that have sent in information to the city that might be good ideas that need to be explored. It's just worth the effort, but it's going to take some effort. It's not going to fall out of the sky. I've known some things recently where the city just didn't make any effort to do something important. Now, it eventually got turned around and fixed, but the city must make an effort on things like that. And that means sitting down with people and really working hard to try to come up with something of value that benefits the city of Fort Smith legitimately, not something made up. But the lease is the way that if you get to a year when you absolutely don't have any money, you can just say to the organization, look, we cannot fund this year. You know, we don't know about a year from now, but 1 year leases at a time. It happens in business all the time. So thank you for the time.
And last, we have Michaela Gaffney.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to mention King Solomon today. In the Bible, in the book of Psalms, the demon of sloth is mentioned 47 times. It is not a coincidence to me that our area code is 47. This is something that we deal with greatly in our city and in the area that we live in, is people that do not have stewardship and the will to drive something forward. Since moving here, this city, and before I continue, because this will be offensive to some, is I would like us to understand generalizations and nuances. This is general as opposed to at large, and the nuance would be if it does not apply to you, then it would not pertain. When we look at the city at large, I have noticed more often than not people that feel entitled, people that think that they deserve things that they have not worked for, people that want resources that they are not willing to gain. And as somebody that really does believe in the small businesses in our community and the way that we drive forward infrastructure, we have to learn how to develop stewardship as a collective together in order to drive forward our city. This is something that is lacking because of the lack of stewardship. With that being said, we have very many issues with mental health. Our mental health is directly associated with homelessness. All of the issues in our society are directly correlated to human issues. Whatever is happening within a business, whatever is happening within a government, every single one of those things is directly correlated to an individual's problem. I noticed this when I called a specific credit union and I ran my diagnostic system through their union. Every single issue that was showing up in her union was directly correlated to the very issues that she had going on in her personal life. With that being said, last time I spoke, I mentioned that there was going to be an event that I was holding. That is going to be this Friday at the Hangout on the 24th at 6:30. This is not just an event directly about mental health, however it is. Every single issue that we are facing currently within our government, within society, and et cetera, is directly involving leadership problems that people are struggling with in their own personal lives. As much as I would love to handle the risks in our community, that is something that I am not currently able to do with a million different reasons. So really what this looks like is bringing people together. I have the capability of holding 50 people at this event. I've rented out this space. I would like to solve the problem with mental health through the things that I have founded and provide necessary information to provide the adequate resources for the people that need it. This has to do with non-legal PADQs, a lot of information that I have found for this specific community. So this is not only about mental health, but this is about the leaders in our society that are stewardess, that are focused on driving a mission forward. This is a mission that is very important to me, and this is a mission that has the capability
and is solving big issues. Thank you.
That's all that have signed in for the Citizens Forum. Thank you. At this time, let's take a 7-minute recess.
Me too.
We're going to reconvene. This time we'll go to the first item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item this evening is an ordinance changing the citizens forum from regular meetings to study sessions. In April, the board passed an ordinance increasing the number of citizens forums per month and placing them at the start of the board's 2 regular business meetings each month. The board subsequently requested that an ordinance be presented changing the citizens forum to the start of each of the board's regularly scheduled study sessions, and that ordinance is presented for the board's consideration this evening. With that introduction, I'll defer to the board's discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments on this item?
Yes, we have 3 individuals, the first being Joey McCutcheon, and each will have 2 minutes.
Thanks for having me. There's flip-floppers and there's putter-offers, and I don't think any of them serve this city. On April 21st, we voted unanimously, the board voted unanimously to move the citizen comment to the beginning of every regular meeting. There was a 4-3 vote on how much time, and that was appreciated. The time was appreciated, and where it was placed. So now we're flip-flopping. But more importantly, when we put things off, that's not good either. Putting off how we're going to pay for a $580 million water infrastructure issue, that's not good. So the question becomes, Director Settle, why are we doing this now? You're saying that because the community or citizens, they wanted that. They didn't want to wait an hour and 34 minutes as it was tonight to hear comments to start the agenda. That's a positive thing. I mean, had we rather have, Mr. Morris talked about, do we want a chaotic meeting? Or I'll say, do we want a nobody shows up meeting that we've been accustomed to the last 3 years? Because I've been at virtually every meeting. When we started having these discussions, nobody was showing up. These aren't chaotic meetings. The only chaos we had was when this fella threatened somebody outside of this, threatened me online, had a baseball bat, threatened me in the two meetings before, stood right over me and threatened me. And before the last meeting, I had a meeting with the police chief and the prosecutor and a detective. So I don't know how this happened outside of this building out here.
Thank you.
I can't understand that because they were aware of he was coming.
Next, we have Chris Cadelli.
Yeah, this is kind of laughable. Y'all just changed this back in April. Where are you going to put us, in the basement next? I mean, there's a reason why this is taking so long. If you guys were running the city the way it should be run, you wouldn't have anybody here. As a concerned citizen, I oppose this ordinance and request it remains as adopted at the April 21st meeting. Regular voting meetings have a higher attendance from directors and citizens alike. This will likely force some folks who prioritize voting meetings due to scheduling conflicts and time limitations to have to attend a study session instead of the preferred voting meeting. Contrary to the opinions of Directors Settle and Rigo, the most important segment of these meetings is when you hear from these folks, the people that elected you and that you work for. These are the people that you need to hear from. So I would ask that the feedback and the opinions of citizens is the most important. Citizens may need more than 2 minutes allowed to speak on an agenda item during a voting meeting. And the citizens forum allows for that additional time. We saw that tonight. There were some folks that already talked about this during the 5 minutes and got another opportunity for 2 minutes to further address the situation. So this is our direct way to express or withhold our consent for how you guys are running the city. So I would ask, with all due respect, keep it the way it is. This is really pretty silly in my opinion. Thank you.
Last, we have Richard Morris, and this will be the last individual to speak on item 1.
Hello again. The elephant in the room is that troublemakers here are trying to extend their social media presence into these public meetings. That's the elephant in the room. Okay. City's been down this road before, and if I'm not mistaken, they had a moratorium for a while. So I'd say we should just stop having these forums until after Election Day. That's just my wild opinion. But yeah, these things are out of hand, and he's having a laugh at that. He's got a sense, when Neil and I go back. Anyway, yeah. All right, that's all I got to say. Thanks. Okay, thank you. At this time, we need a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved with suspension of the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance repealing and replacing Section 2-44, subsection B of the Fort Smith Municipal Code.
Okay, thank you. At this time, board comments. Okay, there are no comments. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Directors Rigo,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Catsavis.
No.
Christina Catsavis,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
At this time, let's go to the emergency clause. Need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Directors Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Catsavis.
No.
Christina Catsavis.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
It's approved, 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Go to item 2.
Item 2 relates to the city's reversionary interest in property owned by the Natural State Council of the Boy Scouts of America at 1401 Old Greenwood Road. Deputy City Administrator Maggie Rice will further discuss the board's options for this item.
Yes, sir. The Natural State Council owns the property at 1401 Old Greenwood Road. The vacant land was conveyed to the Westark Area Council in 1962 by the Fort Smith Board of Commissioners. This deed included a reversionary clause requiring the land to revert to the city should it cease to be used for scouting purposes. The council raised the funds and constructed the building. Over time, the need for scouting offices has declined, and the Fort Smith office is no longer needed in its current configuration. Mr. Jack Butts, attorney for the Natural State Council, has requested the reversionary clause be clarified or removed in its entirety. Included for your considerations are 3 resolutions. Item A removes the reversionary clause, releasing the city's interest. Item B allows the council to lease the entirety of the building for a non-scouting purpose. And item C removes the reversionary clause subject to the enclosed agreement with the following inclusions. 1, that the city receive first right of refusal should the property ever be listed for sale, and should the governing body choose to purchase the property, the price should be less the current market value of the land. 2, the Natural State Council reimburse the current market value of the land should the property be sold to a buyer other than the city. And then a 4th option is to take no action, leaving the reversionary clause in place. The property was rezoned in January 2026 to transitional, allowing for office-related land uses. Additionally, it shares a parking lot with Girls Inc. and is within a large recreational corridor spanning from Rogers Avenue to Country Club Avenue. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rice. Are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
We have Shanna Richardson to answer questions, and then also Jack Butt is available.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution 2A, 2B, and 2C.
Mayor.
I'm sorry. 2A, 2B, or 2C?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt item 2A.
Okay. Need a second?
I'll second. Yeah,
Okay,
I still have a question, so.
okay, we'll
That's
get
fine.
to your questions, okay. We do have a motion and a second. This time we'll have comments from the board. Director Kemp?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Rice, has there been any conversation with Girls Inc. looking to have interest in this property? I mean, it's right there beside them. I mean, if one nonprofit's not needing that space and there's another one that seems to be, needing progress, I mean, is there any conversation there?
I have not had any conversations with Girls Inc. I will say that the city owns the Girls Inc. building. So I don't know that the Girls Inc. would be interested in purchasing this property.
Any other comments or questions? Director Settle?
Yes, Maggie, if you don't mind, I'm going to address Maggie if you don't mind. So A removes the reversion clause completely, correct?
Yes, sir.
So then at that point, the Boy Scouts would own it and,
It releases the city's interest in.
okay, so my question becomes, as you just alluded to, this is a park corridor, right? You got Kelly Fields, sorry about that, folks. Kelly Fields, Hunts Park, the Girls Club,
Creekmore, the Nature
Creekmore.
Center.
So
Yes,
what
sir.
happens if we do revert this and they decide to use something that's not conducive of that corridor? Is there anything that we can, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to is how do we make sure that stays within the bounds of the corridor that's already there?
Well, at present, this board approved a zoning in January of this year to make it transitional,
Okay.
which is office, essentially professional office type uses.
Okay.
So they would be limited by zoning. But other than that, that's pretty much the limitation on the property should the board choose to release the city's interest.
And item 3 puts in some reversion clause that allows us to buy it back in the future. But right now, if we did nothing, if they did anything, we'd just give it back to us, right? If we did nothing and we didn't prove one of these items, what would happen?
The property would revert back to the city.
So doing nothing, the property reverts back to the city.
Correct.
Upon what reason? Is it because they stopped scouting or is it because they're done with the building?
Yeah, if it's no longer used for scouting purposes.
So this is similar to what happened to the Boast building where reverted back to the city?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm good for questions. I'll let y'all talk some more.
Mayor.
Okay, we'll go Director Catsavis and then Director Rigo.
Maggie, what's the appraisal on this property?
We don't have an appraisal on the property. I don't have a current appraisal on the
You mean
property.
no one knows what it's worth?
Pardon?
Nobody knows what the value of the property?
It's owned by the Boy Scouts. They might know. The Miss Richardson and
Yeah.
Mr. Butts are here on behalf of the
Do y'all
Natural
know
State
do y'all
Council.
have any idea what the property's worth?
Because we do not have an intention of selling it. I think that's what we need to clarify to everybody. The intention is not to get the reversionary clause removed to immediately sell it and have another opportunity. The intention is actually to become more flexible. So if we do lease it to an organization, which would be an organization that fits our Scout Oath and Law, of course, the money would be invested right back here to support the kids of Fort Smith so that dollars are not the barrier between a kid and entering the program.
So
So we
I-
don't have a current intention to sell it, which is why we haven't had it appraised.
So item C gives us first right of refusal, correct? If it does come for sale?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Director Rigo.
I just had a question on that statement. Mr. Butts, it says in the memo, and you're the attorney for the Natural State Council, that you've requested the reversionary clause be clarified or removed in its entirety. Could you just explain to us a little bit why you've made that request?
Yes, and frankly, I'm a volunteer member of the board, and because I'm an attorney, I'm volunteering to help this issue too, because I do some zoning and stuff up in Fayetteville where I live. But we started out looking at this strategically. Can we lease some of this building out to make some money if we don't need all the offices? And the Fort Smith response and the planning office has been incredibly helpful to us is, no, you can't use this building for anything except Boy Scouts because that's all it's zoned for. And so we went through the process of getting it rezoned so we could use it for business, attorneys' offices, titles, whatever.
But even though it's now rezoned for those purposes, the reverter clause says if it's used for anything other than Boy Scouts, it goes back to the city of Fort Smith. And so even if we lease one office out, theoretically, Fort Smith could say, we want it back. So we have said we would like the reversion clause to be moved. We paid for the building in 1960 something, and we've been good corporate citizens and that supported Boy Scouts. We said we've kind of shoulder our load in that. Can you just release the reverter? And so going forward, we may continue to use the building. We may lease part of that to tenants. We have no present intention, but theoretically we could sell it to a third party who would put offices in there. If the board doesn't like the notion that they're completely releasing the building, an alternative would be let us rent it to anybody we want to, as long as it's within the zoning. And actually the city came up with the third alternative to say, well, we could let you lease it to whoever you want to, but if you do sell it, we like to get our money back. You keep the value of the improvements, we get our money back. So those are the options on the table. Frankly, we would prefer that the reverter be released. One way or the other, this will be used for scouts, because either the offices will be filled with scouting offices, some or all will be leased, and the money will be used for scouting, or if we sold the building, it would still be zoned for this light commercial, and all that money would be used for scouts somewhere here in this area. But that would give us the most flexibility, would be the motion, which is the resolution removing the reversion clause. But the city had proposed alternatives in case the board said, well, we're uncomfortable completely releasing the reversion. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and thank you for that additional context, and it supports why I made the resolution or the motion for resolution 2A. I think we talk frequently and hear frequently from citizens about the amount of property we own. Are we using property that we own? Is there going to be a future use? What's the cost of ownership, et cetera, et cetera? And we actually have a property that we have an ownership interest in that has a tenant that is interested in more flexibility and is interested in having that responsibility of this property be removed from the city entirely. And I think that's not always a case that comes along. And it's a very well-established, reputable organization. They've made the request, and that's why I supported and made the motion for 2A, and I would encourage us to vote for item 2A. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are
Director
there any
Settle.
other questions?
Director Settle, were you in the queue?
He kind of answered what I was going to ask before. My question is, do you have somebody ready to lease that property right now that is, obviously we rezoned it, so it's going to fit in the zoning. So do you have somebody?
No, without the authority to lease it, we haven't made any effort or any deals at all. And we're just trying to get kind of a green light to proceed either as the unfettered owner, or if the city wants to continue some restrictions, understand what those are. So going forward, we can make the best strategic use of the building for the scouting program.
Okay, thank you very much. Maggie, item B is pretty much, they can follow the lease with the zoning, but we have the reverter clause, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Director Neil Martin.
Ms. Richardson, you said that you would potentially lease it out or sell it to entities that have kind of the, I don't remember the exact word you said, but are same mindset, mission as the Scouts. What type of entities are we talking about?
So again, I want to reiterate, we have no intention of selling the building. I know that's a concern. We have no intention of selling the building. We are a youth-serving organization that follows very strictly the Scout Oath and Law. So if you are not familiar with the Scout Oath and Law, it goes, a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, right? They would have to fit within those means to even lease the building out with us. Because our intention is still to retain some business in that office to support the Scouts of Fort Smith. But if we can lease out a portion of it and then invest those dollars directly into the youth of Fort Smith, that is what we want to do.
So those categories are good. They're fairly broad. It doesn't necessarily mean a Boy Scout entity or maybe a direct
We're not.
Entity that works with Scouts today. It could be something else.
It could be the Dolly Parton Lending Library. It could be another youth serving organization. It could, but we're not going to neighbor in our own building with somebody who is not connected to what we're doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Director Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Richardson and Mr. Attorney Butts, wanted to thank you both for being here. Thank you for the clarification and actually making the stance on what your intention is and what it is not. And Attorney Butts, also thank you for your compliment on our planning department. I have to agree with you. We think they're pretty amazing. Thank you.
Director Rego.
I'll just say, not to belabor the point, if this was being, if a shoe was on a slightly different foot, if this was being approached a different way, and it was the scouts coming to us saying, hey, city, we'd sure like you to take over and have an ownership responsibility in this building, none of us, I don't think, or certainly not a majority of us, would be inclined necessarily to support that. This is a situation where there's a responsible tenant who's giving us an opportunity to divest of a responsibility and a obligation during a time where we recognize that there are resources that are stretched in that way.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? There's been a motion to adopt 2A and 2B.
No, sir, just 2A.
Just 2A, I'm sorry, 2A, okay. Was there a second? Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Directors Kemp,
Yes.
George Catsavis.
No.
I'm sorry,
Nope.
Christina Catsavis,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Item 3.
Item 3 is an ordinance amending the Fort Smith Municipal Code regarding the use of aluminum wiring. The proposed amendment reduces the minimum size of aluminum wiring inside a building where aluminum wiring is permitted by the state and national electrical codes. The city's building official, Jesse Bennett, will further introduce this item and address questions from the board. Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jesse Bennett, Director of Building Services. As stated, this is an amendment to Section 6153 wiring methods, number 6. This change removes the minimum size of aluminum conductor inside of a building from a 4-aught to allow the minimum of a 1-aught wire where permitted by the national and Arkansas electrical codes. Myself and Master Electrician, City Electrical Inspector Sean O'Kelly are here to answer questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, only one, Shane McKinney, which will have 2 minutes.
So when we create an ordinance, we create inspection obligations to enforce. And whenever we're creating the opportunity for people to exercise power over us, I think it's always good to ask what are the reasons and what's going on. So I'm very hesitant to give authority to others easily. Anybody that follows me knows that I'm not a big fan of the way we conduct building inspections and property in the city of Fort Smith, and I think it holds a lot of things back. That said, we also have a lot of fires in houses, and some of those can be prevented by common sense approaches, making sure that our wire is capable. I think this is a pretty good item of responsibility, and there's a reason the code needs this. I would just ask us to make sure this doesn't become a burden on grandma's house that maybe has these things issuing. If grandma needs to do a renovation on her house, is she no longer going to be able to do so because the wiring doesn't match this, and now we're going to require her to, so now she lives in a home that maybe has mold or has other problems. Sometimes the unintended consequences of what we're doing can create additional or can maintain an additional problem. So let me give you an example. Grandma has a house, it's got a roof leak, it's got some problems, it's got some mold. She needs to take care of this. She has enough money to take care of that. But when she goes to take care of the mold problem, we discover we have a wiring issue that needs to be addressed. And so now she does not have the budget. So does she live in the house with mold, or does she live in the house with the potential? I just want you guys to be aware there's more to this than, yes, is this a fire hazard, or no, this isn't. It has direct implications on the people that we love in our community, our family members, some of those that are least fortunate. We're trying to deal with homelessness is obviously a big problem. And every time we pass a code, we potentially set a barrier between a person being able to live in a house that could be available.
Okay, thank you. This time we entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending section 6-153 of the Fort Smith Municipal Code.
Any board comments? Director Good.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment to Mr. McKinney. I actually agree with, you don't have to come up, but I was just wanting to say I agree with your comment about unexpected consequences and the decisions we make affecting homeowners, primarily elderly. You know, I've run into that many times because codes do change. But what I've also found out is that the city of Fort Smith, you know, has programs to help, like our home program, to help those individuals that may or may not be able to afford these upgrades. So, but I definitely can appreciate what you're saying, and we do care about the elderly, but, you know, codes will be codes, and we have to go with what's current.
Thank you. Director Neil Martin.
So I appreciate what Mr. McKinney said. I think we've got some builders in the back as well. Would you guys be willing to speak on this at all? I'd like your opinion, if you wouldn't mind. Sorry to call you up, and get you on the spot. I know that's never fun, but I'd love to get your point of view as well.
If you wouldn't mind to introduce yourself, sir.
Tracy Hooper with JM Supply here in Fort Smith. We use the aluminum wire, service entrance wire, all over every city, anywhere but in Fort Smith. Every other city allows it. They have no problems. We've got countless jobs over the years that we've had no trouble. Even the wire that comes into the meter packs on the apartments and all that stuff, it's aluminum. Aluminum wire has been used for years, and it's new aluminum. It's not new. It's been around for, it's an 8,000 alloy. It's not just straight aluminum. It's a lot better product. It's built. It's all code, International Electric Code. It's allowable. It's used everywhere, but here in Fort Smith. I'd be glad to present y'all jobs where it's being used right now. It's been used. It was actually used one time here in Fort Smith about 2014 on the reserve at Chaffee Crossing Apartments. They got it overturned and let it used on that project. There's been no fires. There's been no issues. It was used on like 112 units, and there's been zero issues at all.
If this were enacted,
Huh?
if this were enacted, if we moved forward with this, are you saying this would be better for a builder versus building something here in Fort Smith? Well, let me back up. Somebody building something.
I've seen several places that were going to come to Fort Smith and do projects, and they didn't because of the cost. It was higher to build it in Fort Smith than it was anywhere else in the whole country. So they scrapped and left and went and built it somewhere else.
Okay.
I've seen that happen before. I don't think y'all want that.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Settle.
May I ask a quick question?
Director George.
All right, sir. Just thanks quick. The cost-wise, is it cheaper this way or not?
It's almost 3 times as expensive to use the copper on the smaller feeders, like for 100 amp size services.
Versus the aluminum?
Yes.
So this is cheaper?
It's
Yes.
it's like
Okay.
it's like $11 a foot compared to $3 a foot.
Okay, thank you.
And when you're talking each unit on a like apartment deal, you're talking, there's like usually about 100 foot
Yeah.
per apartment. When you take that times the number of units, it's pretty costly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure I understand the sentiment. So he is speaking in favor of this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further comments, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Directors George Catsavis.
Yes.
Christina Catsavis.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Directors Christina Catsavis.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
George Catsavis.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Number 4.
Item 4 is a resolution accepting the 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report Ms. Dina Enfield, the Chair of the city's Audit Advisory Committee, is here this evening to present the 2025 audit, and either Ms. Enfield or Chief Financial Officer Andy Richards can address any further questions the board may have. Ms. Enfield? There she comes.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm Dina Enfield. I'm a citizen member of the Audit Advisory Committee and the current chair. And I would like to thank all the board members and citizens that serve on that committee. We do have the annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR, or ACFR, for the city for the year ended December 31st, 2025. I'm just going to go through some highlights of the process and the report, and any questions or information, feel free to ask.
Ms. Enfield, is anything available for the screen here, or there is? Okay, yes, Josh is getting that up. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the audit of the ACFR is performed by Forvis Mazars. They have met with the audit committee, and we were notified that the city will receive an unmodified or clean opinion on the audit, that it is presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. We would like this resolution that the ACFR be accepted so that as soon as the final approval is received from the auditors, the ACFR and their report can be dated and issued in order to meet reporting compliance requirements. The ACFR is prepared by our Chief Financial Officer, Andy Richards, and the report does include a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for the 2024 ACFR that was issued by the Government Finance Officers Association. So the process is that Forvis Mazars performs the audit procedures, which includes their review of their ACFR, and once final, their audit report with signature will be added and embedded in the ACFR. As I mentioned, Andy prepares this, drafts are issued, and the first drafts were issued earlier in June to begin reviewing this. The updated draft was discussed in the audit committee meeting on July 9th of 2026 with the auditors present to have questions asked by the audit committee and management over the report. So I do have in the report, there is a management discussion and analysis section, pages 23 through 33. And I will just go over some highlights of that to discuss for the year. This is kind of a summarization of the full report that goes through items that management believes are important for the year. On page 26 of that, the total net unrestricted position of the city at the end of 25 is 49.1 million, which includes the governmental and business type activities of the city. The net position of the business type activities is 69.5 million, and the net position of the governmental activities is a deficit of 20.4 million. One thing on that number to make sure that we understand is that deficit in the governmental activities is because that number includes the fully accrued pension obligations of the city, which at the end of December were 65.2 million. That's not what's going to be due within the next year, but that is the amount that is fully, is our full accrual for under our pension obligations based on the actuarial amounts. So that is one thing. If that wasn't 65 million wasn't in there, then that would not be in a deficit position. Also discussed in here is that that page on page 26 compares the prior year deficit to the current year, and that number last year was a deficit of 9.4. This year it's 20.4, which is a decrease. But there were some significant general funds outlays, capital outlays this year that were planned and were known, and that also does include the building purchase in 25 of $4 million. Pages 32 of the management discussion analysis does have the detail of the major capital asset events that occurred during the year. And then also the notes to the financial statements will have significant detail, note 4 specifically about the capital expenditures during the year. Another thing to mention in the year is that bond proceeds were issued, the sales tax bonds of $94.3 million. Those were issued at the very end of September 25. That would be used to fund the consent decree work. Because it being late in the year when those were issued, a lot of that money was not able to be spent in 25. So our cash at the end of the year and also our long-term liabilities were increased from where they typically are. Note 7 in the financial statements does include detail of all of the debt that would be outstanding at the end of the year. The other item in the management discussion and analysis that I wanted to point out is that on page 27 has the detail of our overall net position. What we just talked about was specifically related to the unrestricted general fund. But the overall net position for the city during the year increased by $38.4 million from the prior year. The governmental activities included an increase of $8.1 million, and the business type activities included an increase of $30.3 million. In that statement of overall net position, there are transfers shown of $23.1 million from the, which basically from the governmental funds, which is the sales tax construction fund, that then is transferred over to the water and sewer fund for the consent decree work that did occur. Those are not considered cash transfers, but transfers of the work that was performed. The last thing related to the management discussion and analysis that I wanted to point out is on page 39. And that is where we have the balance sheet for the governmental funds. And this is, related to the general fund. At the end of the year, the general fund had a positive unassigned balance of $19 million, which is up from $12 million in the prior year. So that number has increased. That represents basically 29.1% of the general fund expenditures and transfers during the year. That number does not include our pension liability. So that's why that, is different from the number I mentioned before. I think that is something that, I know is watched closely, has improved. Still, we're not, we're only at 29% of our general fund expenditures. So that's something that would continue to be, want to be watched. The other items in talking through just the report in general, wanted to mention a few significant things that I haven't mentioned yet. There is a pretty large contingency footnote on page 115 of the draft report, which includes the current status of the Department of Justice and the EPA modifications. That modification agreement was published in the Federal Register on May 19th of 2026 with a 30-day comment period. And then after that comment period, the modification was filed with the court on July 6th and is awaiting the court to issue a ruling to formalize the modification. I feel like that was important to point out because that is a significant item that has occurred in 2026 and also subsequent to year end that modification is moving forward. Another thing that is in the report is in the required supplementary information. There is a large statistical section that gives a lot of information from year to year and over the last 10-year period. Page 158 of the statistical section covers the net position by component from the last 10 years. So it's comparing 2016 to 2025 and goes through the net position both by governmental activities or business type activities and then the primary government. I know that is small, but on the primary government overall, our total net position unrestricted is $49 million at the end of 2025, which in 2026 was a negative deficit of almost $26 million. So that is a large turnaround over a 10-year period in the primary government net position. Business type activities, That unrestricted balance has gone up. It was 69 million, which is about a $56 million increase over the 10-year period. And then the governmental activities, as I mentioned, that is a deficit of 20 million. But in 2016, that was a deficit of 38 million. So although it's still a deficit, that's the number that does include the pension obligations, and that has been gotten better by about $18 million overall. The last item in the statistical section, page 173, goes over the revenue bond debt service coverage. That's something that is watched closely on the bonds and what our coverage ratio is. At the end of 2025, our ratio was back up to 148%. 110% is the minimum that is required. We were under that in 23. We were barely over it in 24 at 114%, and that has now gone up to 148% with some of the changes made on the funding during the year. The last time I wanted to mention related to specifically the audit. As part of the audit, the auditors also perform audits under governmental and uniform compliance standards. During 2025, there were $6.3 million in federal awards expended. The auditors tested the transit program, which was the major program that was tested in 2025, which is about $2.5 million of that 6.3. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that were noted by the auditors, and they anticipate giving an unmodified opinion on compliance with major federal award programs. And the city also was considered over low risk auditee under the federal auditing standards. Those were the items that I had that I wanted to point out to the board. Andy is here as well if there are questions, specific questions that you would like us to address.
Thank you very much for the presentation. At this time, we will go to, are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
None indicating.
Okay, we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. This time we'll go to comments from the board. Director Neil Martin, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, Ms. Infield, if you would mind, what's your profession?
I'm a CPA.
Your CPA. Do you, how long have you been on the audit committee?
I believe I've been on the audit committee 15 years. Don't quote me on that. I've not been chair. I've been chair for about a year and a half now.
Okay. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
When they say, and I know you kind of mentioned it, but when they say a clean, unmodified opinion, what does that mean in layman's terms?
Okay, so an unmodified opinion is the highest level of opinion that you can issue. It means that there are they're not modifying the opinion. So in the alternative, there's a qualified opinion, meaning we have audited it, but we found certain things that we cannot give a clean opinion on. So we're qualifying our opinion for those things.
So you can't go any higher than an unmodified, a clean opinion?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure that the folks are aware of that. One of the things, because I'm on the audit committee, and I want just the folks in the audience to know that I'm on the audit committee, so I was a part of these discussions where we got this, we got the draft audit. One of the things that Forvis Mazar said, and I wrote it down because I wanted to share it with everybody, said that we are in good a shape as we have been in a long time financially, or in terms of the audit, I guess. They did say, and this is interesting, that it is more complicated because we have water and sewer. Like Fayetteville, there's a Beaver Water District that supports them that they don't have, so that it's not as complicated to do their particular audit. I think the same thing with Little Rock. I think they have a central, yeah.
Little Rock has their own.
So we're unique. It's a lot of challenges related to that. One thing I will say, and I don't know if Andy heard this, but I think he was out of the room at the time because we ask internal staff to leave so we can talk to the auditor ourselves, so we can talk to Forvis Mazars. One of the things that they said is they don't know many in the state that are better than Andy. They're confident in his abilities, irreplaceable from an audit perspective. So I think that's really good for us to make sure that we understand and we communicate out. The last thing that I wanted to get, Josh, if you could go, I think you might have had a page off, think you're on page 173. I think you need to go to 172. Yeah, thank you. So this is the debt service coverage ratio that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. So you can see, if you look at 23, you can see that we were down at 108%. That was under what we agreed with bondholders to, and I'm not a CPA, and if Levon's still here, he could probably talk circles around it. But if I remember, we got under 108%. 110 is what our bondholders say. And if we fall below that, they can call bonds, they can force us to raise rates, they can do a whole bunch of different things. But that's not what happened here. We were on track for it, but we did have that water rate increase that allowed us to be able to salvage 24 to get us over 110%. And then they've continued on to get us to the 148% here. So that's key for all of these people to understand that debt service coverage ratio is something we all need to be asking about, looking at, paying attention to. Yes, go ahead.
The other, one thing I would mention on that is just in, a lot of it is public and private entities, not necessarily governments, but a lot of bondholders and loan holders, 120% is almost kind of a minimum. I think 110% is pretty low, especially on the level of debt we're looking at. And so while we're in compliance, that doesn't necessarily mean we're where we would want to be, I think, as a city on that.
Right. And we knew we had the consent decree and all those things coming up, and water as well. So, okay, that's all I've got. I just wanted to share some things with folks.
Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, Dina, thank you for your leadership of the committee. Thank you to my colleagues that are on the committee, the community members that are on the committee, for the long hours that you put in at y'all's meetings, coming to meetings like this, sharing your expertise. Thanks to Andy and his team, and to everybody involved for the hard work they put in on these financial matters.
Okay, thank you. Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Enfield, thank you for your efforts and all that you do. And 15 years is a long time to continue to offer up your expertise, and I appreciate that. You spoke about the improvement of the pension and the lofty, and that, I think you said it was an improvement of like 18 million, if I remember right, when we went over the numbers, but whatever they may be, can you speak more to that as far as what we hope to see in the future, and how do we make those, how did those improvements get made, and how do we continue to make improvement in that?
Okay. Well, one of the things to just clarify, it's not necessarily just the pension, but if the pensions were excluded, then we would be back in a positive position. But the negative has improved by about, let me get back to my sheet. The governmental activities has gotten better by 18 million. I do think that just specifically related to the pensions, and I'll let Andy jump in here if he would like as well. But, the markets have been good as far as the actuarial amounts and everything are calculated on the various pension obligations. And so those, as the markets continue to do well, then the pension obligations decrease or increase based on the funds that are available, to calculate what would be available for that. So, Andy, is there something there you want to say specifically?
So in summary, as he comes, you're saying the market's going to dictate that?
It does. I mean, there are a handful of assumptions that are made by the actuaries they're the ones that compute these actual liabilities as net pension liabilities. But the markets improve the overall position of the pension obligation. So it's basically what the future projected cash flow will require to pay retirees and beneficiaries, less what the financial condition is of the assets that are built up. So the contributions that the city makes goes towards those assets. There's a lot of different components moving in there, but we have seen some improvement in the liability, in large part because of the market conditions have been better lately. But we also are seeing, just better actuarial experience. We have these old police and fire plans. For a while they were seeing the annual contributions continue to go up and up and up. They would increase them as they needed. The projected future cash flow is a lot higher. So we kind of see that table off. the old plans. We have about 13 years left on the amortization to fully fund those benefits. And the contribution levels are stable at this point, and sometimes they go down some. So those have been kind of a big thorn, I think, in all cities. All cities have these older police and fire plans that we're dealing with. So, but I think the conditions as far as that goes is improved for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Andy, thank you to you and your team for amazing work. Fort Smith is financially strong and getting stronger. A lot of that has to do with you and your team, and we really appreciate, and congratulations on the recognition. Okay, thank you. There are no further comments from the board. We need a call roll, Madam Clerk.
Director Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
George Catsavis?
Yes.
Christina Catsavis?
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
We'll go to item 5.
This item is a resolution authorizing partial payment to InLiner Solutions LLC for construction progress on project number 17-09-C1. The partial payment is greater than $750,000, so by policy, this payment requires board approval. Director of Engineering Todd Mitke will further address this item.
Good evening. As we commented in the last meeting, this contractor InLiner is going very fast, and that's one of the reasons why we have these larger payments than $750,000. But per ordinance, we bring them to you whenever they are over that rate. So I'm open to any questions you may have about this project.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
None indicating.
Need a motion to adopt the resolution?
Second.
Thank you. Board comments, anyone? Okay. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Directors Martin? Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
George Catsavis?
Yes.
Christina Catsavis?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
It's approved, 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
This time we'll go to the consent agenda.
There are 3 items on tonight's consent agenda. We have a resolution authorizing an agreement to accept grant funds from the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnerships Program in the amount of $2,440,937.55 for the May Branch Railroad Trail Phase 1. We have a resolution authorizing an engineering services agreement with Hawkins Weir Engineers for design of the Spradling Avenue Extension Phase 2 in the amount of $83,230. We have a resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and award of construction contract with Goodwin Goodwin related to the addition to the administration building at Solid Waste Services in the amount of $934,518.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments on these?
Yes, we do have on each item, the first being 6A, which will be Joey McCutcheon, 2 minutes.
One thing I've learned about, after looking at this proposal, is that the government has more money than they know what to do with, both at a federal, state, and local level. Secondly, you guys know how to spend other people's money. $2.4 million local match. You can say it comes out of whatever fund, it's coming out of our back pockets. That's why the next time this tax comes up, we just need to do away with it and bring the board back to accountability. And you folks who say you're conservative, you're not cutting the mustard if you vote on this. You know, that's a $2.4 million local match. And look, we've already spent how much money in federal money on this Greenway project, on this May Branch Greenway project. I mean, and here's the real kicker. If you read the contract, it says that we, the people, that's the citizens of Fort Smith, are going to be responsible for operations and maintenance in perpetuity. So it's like this board does every time. You know, we don't look to the future. We just look at now. Number one, we're going to $2.4 million local match. Number two, in 10 years, guess who's going to have to repair this? Guess who's going to have to repair all that green money, Christina? that you were the fourth vote on? The people. It's going to require repairs and maintenance. And I'm wondering if any of the board has talked to the three people who own private property. Private property rights mean something. And I guess those people have been spoken to and they agree with this, because this is going right through private property. And that's a pretty important right in the United States of America. In fact, it's the foundation of our country.
Next for item 6A is Crystal Cadelli.
She left. She's gone.
Okay. 6B, we have Barry McCormick to answer any questions. And then 6B, Shane McKinney, 2 minutes.
I think I was 6C. Oh, wait, I said B and C, but okay. Yeah, I'm more interested in C first. I go to the dump often. I have a lot of things in the houses and stuff that I work on. I don't know how often you guys go, but we did several $1 million of building improvements out at our solid waste facility, and it is so much less efficient than it used to be. It is so much worse, having to wait on a tube to go around and come down, and then having to wait for it to go back and pull your truck forward and pull your truck back. It is ridiculously inefficient. And before we go spending $1 million more on something, I'm just curious, how many of you actually go to the dump from the perspective of hauling stuff from a house, or the kinds of things the citizens really need this for? Because it's a needed service. But if we're going to spend the citizens' dollars, it's not just, here's some money, go do your thing. It's how do we make it better? Because we didn't make it better last time. It's literally worse. It literally takes longer. Anybody else here ever go to the dump? Kind of. Yeah, it's worse, isn't it? It used to be. It used to just be a nice little drive-through thing that popped out. Now you literally pull forward, pull back, pull forward, pull. It's wild. So before we spend another $1 million, let's find out anything that we're building and make sure it's actually going to be an improvement on what we already have. Because we do have a nice facility. We have a huge area, and a lot of cities would be happy to have what we have. But we need to be better stewards of the citizens' time and efficiency. Not just spend their money because it's going to look cool when we're done. Also, recycling program. Remember that fiasco?
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Okay. At this time, we entertain a motion to adopt all. Did the board want to pull any items off for any further discussion?
I just had a couple questions on A and C.
Go ahead.
I think valid points were brought up on point A. If staff could just come and just address the private property question.
Coming to the podium is Sarah Duster, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Absolutely. So as is the case with any federal grant, it requires us to follow the Uniform Relocation Act, which has safeguards in place to ensure that a process is followed. We consult with the property owner, and part of the goal of that Uniform Relocation Act is to give them equitable compensation for whatever property we may need.
So have we already made contact with those property owners?
Not for Phase 1B, no. Phase 1A, yes, and it was 2 property owners, and they willingly donated the easement. They were happy to have the trail along there because it would help give better access to their business.
Okay. And is this funding going to be just for Phase 1A, or are you going to be also for Phase 1B?
So on page 29, the grant agreement, it's been a long process, 2018 to now. The state, they've been great in working with us and pushing the federal government. We completed Phase 1A at their direction because we were given the let loose to go and start incurring expenses from February 1st, 2024 to current. So we have already completed Phase 1A with that. And those construction costs are eligible for reimbursement up to 50%.
Okay, thank you. My question on question C is, I think I saw Mr. McDonald's there. Thank you. Could you just speak to how this will increase productivity for the landfill?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The project that we're looking at this evening was put together because what we'd like to do is take the different operations divisions and put them basically side by side in the same building where we have our customer service and dispatch operations. Right now, we have different managers and the customer service kind of spread out throughout the property, working in different buildings. They don't have a lot of direct interaction. So when someone has an issue, if there's a customer service issue that comes in or a service item of any sort, they have to make a phone call, or if they're going to have to meet about it and talk about it, people have got to travel between different buildings to do that. It's just, we're kind of spread out. It's kind of evolved over time to where we're spread out so that we're not all in one place where we can kind of collaborate with each other. And if an issue comes up, a problem, we can just talk about it and get it solved, in a quick fashion.
And is saying yes to this tonight delaying any other project that you feel like you've got as well that's going to be on your hopper? I know it's coming from the sinking fund, that's why I asked.
No, I don't believe so. The comments about the scale house and getting in and out of the landfill are well taken and appreciated. We have a separate project that was also approved as part of this year's CIP to take a look at the scale house infrastructure, most specifically the software system that we have out there to make it more reliable and speed it up. One thing that we've seen over the last few years that I've studied myself since I've been here, we have a great increase in the number of smaller vehicles that come to the landfill, not just residents and maybe rural residents who come in to use the landfill, but also a lot of contractors and handymen and landscapers and so on. That's really increased, and that's something that we need to look at so that we can, it's not just a scale problem, I should say. It's a traffic control problem throughout the property, but we are looking at the scale house in particular. Do we have the software in place? Do we have the peripheral hardware in place to be able to handle that and move it through as efficiently as possible? And the two don't interfere with each other.
Thank you. Thank you for your clarifications.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
I have a question about A. So we got $750,000. So we've spent that. We're getting reimbursed for that. But then the federal government's come back and said 2.4 million. We have 2.4
I'm going
million.
to defer to Chris for that because he played an instrumental role in getting that increased funding.
Well, don't go off, run off anywhere because I've got questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to kind of just describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so this grant application, the board approved it unanimously on July 24th, 2018.
As before I was even on the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In order to apply, federal government, I think we all know, they're slow at getting things done. And so this has been a process. So when I came in October of 2023, got to know the departments and all that. But long story short, I used to, work for Senator Cotton as his state projects director. One of the departments I dealt with was the Department of the Interior. But Sarah gave me a call. She said, hey, we got a grant award in 2019 and we're waiting on a grant agreement. I was like, okay, let me make some calls. So I called Jesse Soley, who is our local field representative and assistant state projects director for Senator John Bozeman based out of Fort Smith, and said, hey, we'd like to have a conversation with you. We are getting nowhere in this process, and the longer we get delayed, the more project costs go up. And so had a meeting with her. Their office contacted the Department of the Interior, and in essence, the Department of the Interior didn't necessarily like the fact that we brought in our congressional delegation. And so a couple months later, we got a word back saying, hey, we are sorry. And originally, one thing that Sarah failed to mention was that, our original award was for $750,000, but then we got notification several years later, oh, actually, we're going to reduce your award. So that's what led us to contact Senator Bozeman. But in essence, they came back and offered us an additional, I believe it was 1.7, somewhere in there, $1.7 million. So it just goes to show the importance of having relationships with our congressional delegation, but not only our federal partners, but then our state partners as well.
Okay. Sarah, so we weren't anticipating this, these additional dollars. What does that do to the CIP that we have in place today? Because
So we were already anticipating the additional funding received. And what we had done
you're
is
already.
yes, it was already in our CIP. It listed our original award, which was then reduced to $712,500. And then it had a line item, additional NPS National Park Service funding. I think it was $330,000. And then also like $1.2 million from Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism.
Okay.
That's what they had pitched to us in 2024. So we had been looping that into our CIP, accounting for that.
Okay. So, So nothing changes on your CIP?
No, sir.
Okay. No other projects got cut because of?
No, sir.
Okay. And this is already, when were you expecting to complete phase 1B? Let's say this funding didn't come. When were you expecting to complete 1B?
We would not have funds to start construction probably until 2029.
Okay.
Because we don't want to start and not have that
Right.
money.
Okay.
But we do, with this coming in, we also have a $1 million TAP grant from RDOT for phase 1B. So there's that as well. But we hope to plan to bid this out either late 2026 or early 2027.
And with completion date of 27? Would it
Late
complete?
27 or early 28, it's going to be contingent on a lot of different things and kind of weather. And with RDOT being involved, there are 30, 60, and 90% plan review processes that we have to go through as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Director Catsavis.
So Sarah, in the memo, it says this will allow the city to begin seeking reimbursement for eligible costs incurred to date. What were those costs?
So we are eligible for the engineering and construction we've done since February 1st of 2024. We're eligible to request reimbursement of 50% to that. And the number of engineering right now, we have spent about $190,000. And then construction, which was that phase 1A that finished in mid 2025, we spent about $1.1 million. So we're eligible to request right now, once we get our easements and give them to ADPHT, that's a term of the grant agreement, to request 50% reimbursement of those costs.
So over 500,000
Yes, ma'am.
that we've already spent.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
If there are no further comments on items be pulled, why don't we get a motion to adopt all consent agenda items?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. If there are no further board comments, please call the roll.
Directors Rigo,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Catsavis,
No to A and yes to the rest.
Christina Catsavis,
Yes to A and B, abstain on C.
and Settle,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
All right, motion passes with 7 in favor on all items with the exception of item 6A, which is 6 in favor and 1 opposed, and item 6C, which was 6 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go to the officials forum. I'm going to pass and we'll go directly to Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to flash us back all the way to the beginning, make a motion to have as an item of discussion on a future study session, the topic of alcohol sales on Sunday.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Director Good,
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to, going back to the earlier session, I would love to make a motion that we'd have a study session at a future date to hear Mr. Robertson's ideas a little bit more. I think he's onto something with the idea of allowing a paper response where we could start getting feedback or even educating people if they're wanting us to take action. I think sometimes they don't feel heard because there's not a response to that. And so maybe there's a way to look at tuning that up at a future date. I'd love to at least have the conversation.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Director George Catsavis.
Mr. Chair, you got your pencil and pen ready? No, it's really, Board, I'd like to ask our Jeff to look at, I want the airport commissioner, what's the manager's name? To come to the board for a study session to discuss the airport?
I think that'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get something jump started. Also, I want Tim Allen from the chamber to come to the study session and discuss the chamber. Yeah, I'd like to know how he's handling people wanting to move here to Fort Smith or businesses. And the last three things, I'd like the current water bill for Bengay and Golf Course, the First Tee Learning Center, and the current bill for the water park. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Christina Catsavis.
Jeff, have we heard anything back from the FCRA to my request to have them appear? Have we reached out to them?
Could you put your mic on, Jeff?
I'm sorry. I think Daniel must have been out of town. I've not spoken with him yet, but I did reach out. I'll continue to try.
We are the beneficiaries of that trust, and they should come before us and answer questions about how the money is being spent. They consistently cancel their meetings. We've not been able to get this information. I think it's important that they come here and answer questions. Thank you.
Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a couple of things. Part of our cemetery discussion that we're going to have or vote in September, can we get a cost by the administration on what they think the bare bones cost would be to take care of the cemeteries from the Parks Department, but also from the City Clerk's Department, because I know the City Clerk handles Oak Cemetery. So I'd like to get those costs in front of us to understand what those would be. Not bare bones, and then what would be what we do at Oak Cemetery, kind of retrofitted for the rest of the cemeteries, the cost there. The other one I'm going to ask to make a motion for the first study session in August. Ms. Peer actually beat me to it. I'd like to talk about data centers. I know we have an ordinance in place, and Maggie can bring all those ordinances to us that we voted on, I think, a couple years ago. 23. It talks about data centers. I want to bring that in front of the board so we can talk about it. But also like to see if we can put some board action in there that makes the board of directors have to approve a data center. And the big one is, can the board have to approve a data center that is tied to our water system that's not part of our city? That is a big thing that I think we should talk about because we're a regional water supply. What I don't want to happen is another city outside the city of Fort Smith brings in a data center. Next thing you know, we're spending 4 million or 5 million gallons a day that we didn't approve. So I'd like to see if that's legal from a legal standpoint of how we can have the board of directors having to approve a data center that's tied to our water supply. So I'd like to do that the first study session in August, which will be the first study session
I'll second that.
with our citizens forum at the beginning. So thank you.
Director Neil Martin.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off what Director Christina Catsavis said. I have some interest and have questions about Deer Trails Golf Course out at Chaffee. So I want to talk about that as a part of our discussion with FCRA. I would like, this came up in our audit committee meeting, and I said that I would bring this to the board. I would like to make a motion to sell the parking garage.
I'll second that
Okay, thank you.
in a heartbeat.
So I think, Jeff, we need to look at, what that means, what the impact is, but I think it's time to get that off the books.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else? Mr. Dingman, you're recognized.
The only thing I would comment on is that Fort Smith is hosting the Arkansas Swimming Long Course State Championships this Thursday through Saturday at Creekmore Park Pool. The event will have 363 individual athletes and their families from across the state competing in this event. The opening ceremony will take place 8:15 Friday morning, July 24th. So,
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will go into convene executive session, naming the following. We will review city administrative candidate applications, appointments to Community Development Advisory Committee, the Electrical Code Board of Appeals, Fort Smith Municipal Employees Benevolence Fund Board of Advisors, Historic District Commission, Housing Assistance Board, Port Authority, the Transit Advisory Commission. We're going to reconvene, and I'm going to turn this over to Director Lee Kemp to discuss the administrative candidate applications and the process that we're using. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Upon the review of the executive session, I will need a concurrence of 4 directors, but I'd like to make a motion that we would have an executive session as the City Board of Directors for the purpose of interviewing Joseph Lassard, Richard McGill, and Robert Savick on Thursday, July 30th at 4:30 PM at the Blue Lion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Need 4.
I concur.
Okay. Did we get 4? Got it? Okay. At this time, we would like to make the following announcement, make the announcement on the following appointments. Tiffany Meyer, Carolyn Mosley, and Heather O'Hearn, I think that's right. O'Hare, okay. And Emily Treadaway to the Community Development Advisory Committee, the Electrical Code Board, Mitchell Hughes, Fort Smith Employee Benevolent Fund Board, Mary Moore, the Historic District Commission, Robert Clark, and Nate Deason, Housing Assistance Board, Abby McCullum, Port Authority, Eddie Norman, and Transit Advisory Committee, Joe Elskin. Okay, we need approval on all appointments. Okay, second. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you very much. If there's nothing further, we need a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you.